Thank you. Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, 3 doctors and a senator. Could be a movie, if you guys want to consider that. You know, there's the old yarn that the first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem. I first came to Congress in 2005, and I would argue then that there was a minority in both parties that thought that the debt and deficit were a significant, or certainly the significant problem. I thought we'd kind of gotten over that. I thought that by now maybe people see that this is a serious problem, if not the most serious problem. Yesterday, the President came and spoke to us, the House Republican Conference, and I was frankly discouraged. Not that he came and spoke, that's always good, but I was discouraged by some of what he said, which was that he made it clear that he didn't believe that balancing the budget was something that we ever needed to do. Now, I'm a CPA, so, you know, balancing the budget has a symmetry to it, which I sort of like as an accountant. But from my view, balancing the budget is much more than that, that it's something that creates the kind of conditions, or frankly, to be on the trajectory that will balance the budget, will create the kind of conditions to unleash the growth that we have before us that Senator Gregg has discussed. I believe that what the President said, as I recall yesterday, was that he wanted to stabilize the deficit at 3 to 4% of GDP. That, to me, doesn't solve the problem. And I was discouraged by the idea that that was what his main objective was, and that any other objective beyond that he felt was unnecessary. Your thoughts?
Let me start. I think the important thing now, and we've all stressed it, is not to have your debt growing faster than your GDP, and get it on a downward trajectory. It's not necessary, in my opinion, to balance the budget exactly, but we should have deficits that are well below our growth of GDP on the average. That's what we did at the end of World War II. We had a huge debt then, over 100% of GDP. We didn't run surpluses. We ran small deficits and grew the economy faster than the debt. We got to a more comfortable state where we were down around debt about 30% of GDP. I'd like to get there eventually, but not so fast that we wreck the economy.
What Dr. Rivlin said is exactly in line with what the International Monetary Fund says to countries around the world, and what your government, through the Treasury Department, urges the IMF to say to countries: stabilize, bring down debt to GDP. So you want to have growth, and considering how relative, you need to consider how much growth you can achieve when you're thinking about reasonable, responsible deficit targets. But stabilizing, thinking about what is the right debt to GDP for the country, that's the right conversation.
So I think the problem with stabilizing debt is we already have too much. So you're stabilizing at a high and dangerous level with unknown risks, and like higher interest rates, which would further tie the hands of future democracies. I mean, that doesn't make sense for the United States. I will speak out on behalf of balancing the budget. I mean, I'm a PhD economist, and I was indoctrinated that balancing the budget is stupid and primeval and represents a Neanderthal way to think. I've come around to the point of view that we need fiscal discipline in the United States, and a commitment to something like a balanced budget is something that will be important, that you can design balanced budget goals with a sufficient flexibility for economic and national security emergencies, that they're not dangerous to growth, and that we ought to think very hard about a commitment to balanced budgets in one form or another.
If our goal is to reach a deal, we shouldn't get engaged in this fight. I'm 100% for balancing the budget. I did it as governor, and it was my goal here in the Congress for years. But our goal should be to stabilize the policies which are driving our debt. And that means we've got to get everybody in the room around those policies and address them. And in accomplishing that, we will make, the outcome will be, the result will be that we will move close enough to a balanced budget so that those of us who want to balance the budget will have a reasonable shot at it, and those who want to maintain a debt a deficit of 2 to 3% will have their ability to make that argument too. But the goal, we shouldn't get sidetracked. In my opinion, we shouldn't get sidetracked on this debate because it really isn't going to move the process forward. Our process needs to be to reach a comprehensive bipartisan agreement. It has to be bipartisan because this is a divided government. And so this debate, I think, it sidetracks us. Even though it's very important as a Republican that we balance the budget, I know that that's not the position of the President, and I don't want to hold him to my position in order to get a deal.
Thank you.
Thank you.